pasted from the Google form. So there's no editing done. These are the participants' questions. So I thought that these are kind of like common questions that people would have when they think about research and publications, if you look at it. So the first one, how to identify if a journal is predatory or not. And you might know by now what is predatory journal. I didn't know when I was like 10 years younger. I had no idea what it was, and I never knew that there are such Guntur and Vijayawada based journals which are actually taking money and publishing. I'm sorry to name them, but I mean, I'm not so sorry, but I'm just saying that there are such journals quite available there. And one surprising thing is that people even now, with all these FDPs, which became a post-pandemic kind of a trend, we all, I mean, not we all, several people actually go for this kind of a trap of predatory journal. So how to identify that? How important is it to publish in a UGC care list or Scopus index journal? And are there journals where you can publish without paying? So you look at this participant might have paid all through his life for the publications that he had to show to the management of the institute where he worked in. It's a he. If so, where can we get a list of those journals? Yeah. Now, a heads up, which I usually give, is that I'm not going to, at the end of this presentation, please do not expect me to give you a list of journals which are good and a list of journals which are predatory. I will just enable you to find some means to figure it out yourself rather than spoon feed with the list of journals. So and in the chat box or maybe to me, please don't ask me, give me a list of journals. I will definitely enable you or tell you certain sites which can be very helpful for you to go ahead and find journals. How to write articles to publish in best journal without rejection. This is a very interesting thing. I'll tell you about it in a bit. How to be able to increase my citation score and H index. So this person has published, but worried about H index and then citation score, etc. How to get more and more citations. Well, there is no single answer to that. It's just about striving. We will see that through the presentation. Then the last one, how to publish in Scopus for PhD, whether PhD or for anything else, how to publish in Scopus and how to identify which is Scopus index journal. So if you look at these responses, you can see a variety of perspectives towards it or a kind of mindset, a kind of academic mindset involved in that. Some people are quite narrowing it down for Scopus for PhD. You look at it. And then how to identify which is Scopus journal. So it must be something like never checked for it at all. And then some people are more aware of it because they discuss citation index and H index, I mean citation scores and H index and all. So what is that? I'm not going to give you any answers of what. I'm going to give you some ideas about how and why. Okay. So let's just go into this thing. I just thought that it is a good thing to begin with such kind of a list of questions that were recurring in several of the faculty development programs that I have gone for. So having these parked in our mind or one side of our mind, let's just look at the overview of the session. Why do we publish our research and how do we write research articles and where should we publish? Basically, these are the three things that are motivating me to talk to you today on some essential considerations or as essential considerations of research publications or research and publication, that's better. So why do we publish our research? If it was an interactive session, I could have made it, but then, the time span, and I have some content to talk to you about. So I thought I'll just rather take it as a monologue or a kind of a lecture. So how do we publish? I mean, why do we publish our research? We know that it's the dissemination of new knowledge that we aim at when we publish our research. Is it? We need to think about it. There are several forces that make us publish. Okay, annually or semester wise, we might have to submit a kind of performance appreciation report or kind of a document to the head of the department, and from there it goes to the dean and to the VC or so and so, where our performance will be monitored based on the kind of publications that we have. Largely the number, not the quality, but the number matters quite a lot. So how far is it true that we want to disseminate new knowledge and that is why we publish? Please think about it. Second thing is that a robust body of published work actually enable us to progress in our career, uh, because this is needed for promotion, salary increment, even for getting into the system, teaching domain. A lot of marketization is happening and quite a lot of competitive world we walk into. So some of you who are from centrally funded institutions, even there are differences, the university system has a different kind of parameters for finishing the PhD off, and technical institutes like mine, I mean, technology-based institutes like mine, NITs, IITs, and triple ITs, and all have a different parameter. But then autonomy makes the kind of governing body to make decisions about the kind of publications that they should have. But largely, if we look at it, the universities are quite okay with the UGC care listed journal publications, whereas for us, it doesn't really matter. So if I publish 100 articles in UGC care list, and if I try to apply for my promotion here, I wouldn't be shortlisted because it's a science and technology institute that only goes for Scopus and Web of Science or SEI kind of journals. And there are some IITs which have made it mandatory for the humanities scholars to publish in SI. You check what is SCI if you don't know, because we should be curious. So you think about it. The demands that an educator, a teacher faces these days is quite enormous. It's not like how it was 5 years ago. Things are just tightening up, and it makes us under some kind of pressure. And recently, when I went to meet some students in a particular college in Trichy, some of them were telling me that they've even paid 75,000 for a UGC care listed article. I was like, really, did you do that? And then they were saying yes, because we had to get it done to progress to the next level. You think about it. So uh, that is the reality of our publications, or the kind of wanting to publish. And another interesting thing, see, I'm full of stories, but then these stories are kind of cases. You need to approach it in a systematic and objective way. Don't think that she's here to talk about her own stories or whatsoever, but stories teach us a lot of things. We are all pedagogues, right? So recently somebody has told me that um, Monday to Friday I work, and then Saturday and Sunday I don't work. I said, which means you don't go to college. And the person goes, no, I meant about writing. I said, so Monday to Friday is your teaching time, your preparation time, your examination time, everything else, plus your writing, your research. Yes, I said, so Saturday and Sunday you will not touch it. No, no, anything related to my university, I don't touch it. This is exactly the problem, uh, coming from you, if you look at it. Because research, if you're doing it for your institution, it becomes a burden. The burden that you carries with happiness will become less burdensome. So it's just that. I don't disagree that for some people, research is passion. For some people, it's really like the other side of the passion, the pain. Okay. So if you look at it as something that the institute demands, so the college or university demands, it becomes quite heavy on your shoulders, and it's very difficult to progress in whatever you do. But this is the reality. Your academic and your professional kind of upskilling is depending on the kind of publications that you're coming up with, and there is no relaxation as of now on this. And publishing actually helps us to establish ourselves as an expert in the field. How do you know that somebody, see, think about Shah Rukh Khan. We all know him as a star, or Rajnikant for that matter. We know that he is superstar. How did he become the superstar through hard work, obviously, through the work that defined him or them, perhaps. So your work actually helps you to get established in the field as a person to go to, or the Google Scholar thing says we stand on the shoulders of the giants, so one of those giants. Yeah, so just think about it in that positive sense, and please from this point onwards, because you are into this faculty development program, I do conduct a lot of faculty development programs here, and I believe that there should be some kind of a change in the mindset of people who are attending, okay, listening to it and processing it. The problem is that we listen to it because we see the title and it's so fascinating, and we see that, okay, there might be some capsules that we get. There's no capsule to success. You listen to things and then you make a plan for yourself. It's pretty much like the design thinking. You create a prototype, and then you work on it, and you come up with a better version of it, and then you revise, and then you evaluate. It goes on like that. So please, from this point onwards, because this is the first day, I'm sure that so many excellent sessions are going to um, follow. Congratulations to the organizers and thanks to them. Several different things are going to come. So make the maximum out of it and start working on this research self of yours from today onwards. So if you think that I'm writing because I have a bright idea, and I'm writing because I want to establish myself as someone whom people would consult for their research, then you are actually disseminating new knowledge. And then you won't feel it like a burden kind of thing, and you will make some kind of adjustments to your not having enough time, being burdened by administrative work, or quite tied up within the family spectrum. Whatsoever kind of challenges are there around you, when you are motivated by this sheer fact of being published, for being recognized, there is a big change that comes to you. So please understand that it's not easy, but it's not impossible. It stands somewhere between that, right? We will see the progress. So I would request you to just have a mindset change if you're serious about this faculty development program, and particularly about this session. So now, to further, there are certain small gains of publishing. Something that I learned from my experience, okay? Peer reviews, when you get good peer reviews and feedback, it enhance the research writing skills actually. So I can see that over the period of 4 years, I've developed so much, not because of ChatGPT or Gemini, because I paid attention to the reviewers' comments and I made a notebook for myself where my common mistakes were occurring. And I tell this to all my students also, that you have to have a notebook in which you write down your problems. Okay. And every time you are writing another one and revising the other article, you should go through this checklist to ensure that those mistakes are not happening. A few rounds of writing, it becomes so automatized into your brain, and then you don't have to refer to something. But whether people do it or not, I do it, therefore I preach about it. But if you can do it, you will see the difference. So you learn a lot from the peer reviews. The paper that I'm editing now had received around 12 pages of review. I am not joking. It's a confidential document. Otherwise, I would have screen shared it and shown you that. 12 pages of review. So it was sent to two reviewers. One was, I don't know. The second reviewer is always, if you have published, you will know. The second reviewer is a terror. Okay. So the second reviewer rejected it. Therefore, the first reviewer accepted it with major changes. Therefore, they sent it to two extra reviewers. So four reviewers altogether, and four reviewers' comments I have to address, make changes in the paper, and resubmit it. For 3 consecutive nights, I've been working on this because I had other challenges as well, balancing the family and professional domain, though I have a very supportive family. Then lots of academic work where I had to take an extra class for the students before the semester ended, and their paper corrections and everything going on. Whatever you go through, I go through as well. And then this correction. So last night around 2 o'clock, I finished it off, the drafting. But then now it's time for me to go through all the 12 pages of comments and see whether I have addressed it or not. Okay. So you understand that such kind of nuanced comments can actually help us make the article very tight, and it's not a one-time thing. When they do it and when we park it here, the next article that we are going to write is going to be devoid of any of these errors. That's certain. We won't mistake, we won't repeat the errors or repeat the mistakes because we are adults and we can actually plan and process things quite smartly. So I see this as not a very small gain, but a very good outcome of any kind of peer review. And then it probes or it promotes some kind of a self-interrogation of the validity and reliability of the research in comparison with others. So when you are getting reviews and they are asking you to refer to some other articles, definitely you are going to read an extra article, and that will give you one more perspective on that, which will make you self-interrogate. Do I have to? But please understand that these are basics, or what I said as essential considerations of researching and publishing. Without going through this stage, please don't imagine that you can publish in good venues. Yes, predatory publishers you can, because it's all paid kind of business. You may be able to, but then there is no validity for that research. Okay, it's just in vain that you would be doing it. So if you want to publish in good journals, then all these processes must be taken into consideration. Discoverability is another thing. You will, you will be more and more. Somebody Googles your name and then you appear. It's fantastic. I mean, it's beyond that, but I'm just simplifying it. It helps others to learn as well, because it's as a teacher, as an educator, as a researcher, it is our responsibility to share the knowledge that we have found through researching. So I find it to be quite meaningful to do classroom research, because my specialization is in English language studies, though I write in cultural studies occasionally. But largely my area of specialization is language studies. So where do I get time to do the research? I take classroom as a specimen and I conduct classroom research. Whatever activities I do, as she told, that I try to innovate in terms of pedagogy. Yes, I do that. And when I innovate it, I have the responsibility to tell the world that yes, I did this and this was very successful. And these were the problems. Maybe you can try it differently, right? So when I do that, or if I want to do that, I cannot expect all the FDPs to have me over there and then I get a platform to talk to people like this. But better, as Shakespeare says, I'm giving you everlasting kind of life through my poetry. To his WH, he says. So similarly, you can actually make yourself immortal while you write it down or while you help others to learn by publishing it in a very good journal. And this will definitely help other researchers to advance their work, because you will be always suggesting further work or further kind of reading that is possible, or some kind of gaps in your own research, so that people can take up and do further research. So you are doing a lot of social service or academic service as well when you are publishing. And if that service part is absent from there, then you have to really think about the research ethics that you have. Now, how do we write research articles? We need to have ideas. So conceiving an idea is the first step. Then conceptualizing it. So you have an idea, right? So that lit moment of it. And then how do you conceptualize it? How do you elaborate it? How do you make it into a researchable kind of theme is important as well. And then writing, reviewing, editing. All these are parts of research articles. But when you're thinking about publishing, it doesn't stop there. It deals with the rejections or acceptance or peer reviews and all. We don't have the whole day to discuss all that. So I kind of capsuled it, and now let's see how far we can progress. So where should we begin with, or what should we begin with? Not where should, but what should we begin with? If you think about it, identifying the key research areas that you are interested in. If you were in front of me and if we were in one particular classroom, I would have asked you and could have come around and checked. But now it's totally up to you. Wherever you are, you can key in or maybe take a piece of paper and write down your major research areas. So think from the bigger picture and then narrow it down. So identify the research areas means, I hope that this FDP is for literature teachers and language teachers. So in that case, we are largely humanities faculty members or researchers here. So what is your broad research area? Is it English language studies or is it English literary studies? And if it is English language studies, what particular aspect is your research interest? Try to write it down because we don't have a lot of time to stop, pause, and ask, I'm going forward. But it's better if you largely write whether you want to do your research in cultural studies, language studies, or literature studies on your notebook. It would be nice. And narrow it down to what aspect of language studies, what area of literature, maybe eco criticism or post-humanism or whatsoever, you can write that down. So these are some of the examples, second language acquisition, social linguistics, pragmatics, language pedagogy, technology in language learning, AI in language learning, yeah, like that. Literary studies can be comparative literature, critical theory, digital humanities, post-colonial studies, whatsoever. Interdisciplinary trends are there. Tomorrow you have a session in memory studies, I think. So like that, eco-criticism, peace linguistics, cultural studies, hydrofeminism, sorry, that comes under blue humanities. So these are some kind of interdisciplinary areas as well. So what kind of a research or film studies, what kind of a research area would you like to identify for yourself? So if we take this session as a workshop kind of model, you can just progress with me by scribbling down certain things. Please, I know that you cannot write an entire article, but at least a skeletal thing you can generate, right? So identify the research area, narrow it down, and then the major thing is to craft research questions. How will you craft research questions? They should be clear, focused, and researchable ones. So what is clear and focused? They shouldn't be a very general kind of questions, okay? And they shouldn't be yes or no kind of questions. And if you have to ask a yes or no question, there should be a why or why not attached with that. So you need to ask a very good research question in the area that you have identified, whether it is film studies or language studies, wherever. And then it should be relevant to existing gaps in literature. See, now because of Bharat knowledge system or Indian knowledge system and all, we are revisiting even the epics and all, and looking into Vedas and seeing how ecology is working. So if you look at it, an old text is coming back, but then the theory that we try to approach it with is very new. It's not old things being done with old texts. It's like old texts being studied from new perspectives. That's okay. So is it relevant to the existing gaps in literature is something that you can actually do. So it's a lot of innovation that you need to bring in there. So sample kind of examples which are very not very strong ones, I just scribbled it like that. How does translation influence the reception of Dalit literature? What is the role of technology in second language learning in rural Indian schools or rural Tamil medium schools, something like that. So you have to write down two related questions at least, which are relevant to your study. Then this will give you a lot of focus in approaching that research seriously, right? I hope you're getting it. Now, the second part is to review the literature. So you conceive an idea, you conceptualize the idea, and then you have to review the literature. Conceptualizing also includes bifurcating the idea into two functional kind of research questions. Something that can be researched within your span, within your ability, you can do the research, that kind of an idea. Now, it is important to review the existing work because you cannot say that I thought about it. Something that comes to our mind so easily, and we will be like, I had this experience, okay? Initially, when I was a BA student, I used to wonder, oh, wow, I got this brilliant idea. if you look at Paradise Lost, the Satan who is expelled, or Lucifer who is expelled from the heaven, he has indomitable kind of courage and all. He's unyielding and all. This is quite similar to the Mahabharatas Duryodhana, who had something in Sanskrit called Sthita Pratyaya Sthairya. Even when he's dying, he is quite like belligerent and courageous and all. So I was just connecting it, and I thought that, wow, brilliant idea. I will write about it. I got marks and all, but eventually when I read it, I understood that people have already talked about it. So if I imagine that I am so brilliant and this is my own idea without researching whether it has happened before, that's actually my responsibility to ensure that this kind of a copying doesn't happen. Because we are all humans, and if you go according to the Jungian concept, there is something called collective unconscious. We can think about the same thing at several points of time. So we shouldn't just judge it from a very biased perspective, thinking that this is my idea. We need to confirm that there are not similar ideas anywhere else, or the same idea was not there. That is why we have to do literature to avoid duplication and to identify more and more research gaps. Okay, this idea has been addressed there, but it was looked from a very different perspective. That's how we do. I don't use Zotero, Mendeley, and all, but these are some of the suggestions that my research students have told me about, getting references proper and all. Google Scholar, obviously, I've used like every one of you. Which leads us to give. But then I'll give you a thing that several of you might be doing, but this is hard work, but I do that, therefore I'll share it. When I read an article, a seminal article in the field, I go to the reference and I look at things which are quite appealing to my study, and then I take cues from that reference list and I go and read those references, and those references will lead me to other references. So by reviewing the kind of references that an article in your interest area will give you a wealth of bibliography, a very rich kind of bibliography. So this is something that I do, which is hard way, because you will have to literally like copy paste and then go for each and every one which you think is, I mean, each and every article which you think is interesting. I'm not sure how Zotero or Mendeley are going to help, but these are the suggestions that my students told me that, ma'am, you should talk about this. So I just thought I'll open it up. Some of you might be using it. So when you are reading, I tell my students, my research students also, all six of them, you should actually critically evaluate that. So appreciate the article, you read it, you understand it, and write a critical summary of it and connect it with your research area. How different or how similar are those articles with my plan of research? This kind of a synthesis is always needed for us when we are conceptualizing the research problem and furthering with it. Now, selecting the right methodology is something that depends totally on the language, totally on the research area that you have chosen, selected. So if you are going for qualitative approaches, you will use textual analysis, ethnography, case studies with, interviews and all. Quantitative approaches, it counts people and a phenomenon as numbers. So statistical analysis will be involved in that. The tools will be qualitative and the analysis will be quantitative as well. So mixed methods combining both quantitative and qualitative tools. People who research in language studies often use mixed methods, because sometimes interpreting the scores and all become very important, whereas people who do literature kind of or cultural studies kind of research seldom uses such quantitative approaches. They go for the qualitative methodology, where narrative analysis, content analysis, thematic analysis. I recently have an article published in Visual Studies, which is a Q1 journal, where I analyzed some photographs. So that was a visual narrative analysis based on the theories of pseudo inefficacy and all. It's about climate change and how photography is responding as a field to that. So if you have selected your area of research, accordingly, you can fine tune the kind of approaches that you need to adapt in terms of the right methodology. So now I'll just quickly take you through this. We won't take a lot of time on this. This is the structure of an article which you know, but then don't think that this structure is only for ELT research or for scientific kind of research. If you read any good articles in literature or literary studies or cultural studies, some way or other you will see this threading. Okay, there is an introduction followed by a literature review which talks about the method of analysis that you're going to, even if it is a kind of a study based on a novel or a short story collection whatsoever. And then the findings, only thing is that they will not be labeled as introduction, literature review, methods, results, discussion, and conclusion, but this is basically the kind of structure that you have. What made me show this slide to you is the question that are just coming under it. So I'll read it out to ensure inclusivity. So what is known, our understanding of the world, that's what you will be starting with in the introduction. And then what is unknown, or what's the gap we want to fill. So that, for that you need literature review. How and why should we fill the gap? So that reveals our rationale and purpose or kind of hypothesis, if you want to put it. And then you go with this information to the methods. What did you do for that, or what have you done for that? And then comes what results did you get? Okay, followed by how do the results fill the gap? Whatever you have found, how are they addressing the gaps that you have identified in the introduction? And then there is a very elaborate kind of discussion which is very difficult to write indeed. I'm struggling with that now. How do the results fill the gap? You need to interpret it in terms of other work as well. You know, this is how my research results are similar to the previous ones or dissimilar to the previous ones. And then goes for conclusion, where you have to ask this question: what does this mean for us in going forward? So yeah, I have found this, so what now? How do I take it forward, or what suggestions or implications do I have to offer to the knowledge community is the next step. So this is basically the anatomy of a research article, if you would like to call it that way. And now I will quickly take you through this abstract writing process, because I feel like this is very important. Because after the title of your research paper, people will be reading the abstract, because abstract gives the summary of the paper, a very comprehensive and clear kind of synopsis. And based on that, people will make a judgment whether to click download or whatsoever, right? So abstract is something that we write at the end of it. Like introduction is written last, abstract is written last. As the final thing, after the whole paper is completed and revised and all, we sit down and write the abstract. You need to reread your paper, and one way in which I do is this way. You can try other ways as well, but I'm just sharing what I do. Condense each section into 2 sentences, and then ensure that these statements are covering the major points discussed in those sections. So introduction into 2 sentences, literature review into 2 sentences, methodology into 2 or 3 sentences, like that. So enough information is provided, and I need to also check whether it's 150 worded abstracts or 200 or 300 words abstract. That you need to check with the journals thing. But generally 150 to 200 words abstracts are what are expected out of us when journals are giving their guidelines. And then edit and check the flow of thoughts and ideas, because we are doing the surgical kind of mechanical approach to it. We should ensure that the coherence is there and there is flow of thought proper, and every information is sufficiently filled and all. So this is how you write the abstract of it. So basically, I just gave you an overview of the writing process. Now comes some components of scientific abstract, which is quite similar to that of the article itself. The context and the topic are relevant. Research problem or questions must be mentioned. What is already known about the problem, that is the background, that should be given. Rationale for the research should be very clearly stated. And methods should be mentioned, briefly. Findings and research should be discussed as well, and if possible suggest some kind of implications. So these are the components of a scientific abstract, which is kind of a miniature of the research paper that you would write or you have written. Now, while we write the paper, we need to ensure that there is clarity and coherence. So this is very difficult to actually achieve, because I can tell you that you should write clearly and coherently. How are you going to achieve it? So some things that I do is to do two types of proofreading at the end of it, which I thought that I'll tell you later, but then as it came to me, I'm just telling you. When you finish the paper and when you edit it, you have to do two types of reading. One is to find out the language inaccuracies, which is kind of very easy these days because Grammarly and other tools, they help you to polish your articles in terms of language errors and all. But about coherence, it's very difficult to find such kind of a support. So what you have to do is the second round of reading where you will ask this question: do I make sense? Okay, so that ensures clarity. And the second thing is this following the idea that I have already mentioned, or is it something so different from what I have said already? So if you go through such kind of a process where you check for that intersentential kind of connection or interparagraph kind of connection, you will be able to write coherently. So you can't say that I've been in Paris, and then you can say that, and the second sentence should not be something that is so unrelated to that first statement. It has to be something, the second sentence has to do something with the first sentence. So how do you do that? You will use a lot of signposting devices. I haven't put it down, but you can browse the signposting devices, hedges or markers, which are like hence, therefore, so, thereafter. There are several such kind of connectors, which are called signposting devices, which you have to use. Okay, so when you use them, naturally there will be a flow, because you can't just like how Samuel Johnson calls the done similes and all, two heterogeneous ideas yoked by violence together. That's not possible. You can't do that in academic writing. So when you're using one particular signposting device or a stance marker, you will ensure that, yeah, this first idea is linked with this, and I'm not violently yoking together two different but dissimilar kind of ideas. So you need to ensure that. So that is the kind of questioning that I do. Do I make sense when I say this? And if this can be made sense to someone who is not trained in this field but who understands basic English, then I have great clarity. So I don't think we should write with such kind of attitude where people should not understand what we write and people have to take a dictionary and check it and all. Clarity is very important in academic writing. It's very, very important in academic writing. And I recently I told one of my students who is researching in arts, to she largely in cultural studies, to check this check this research article by Barthes. It's called toys. Okay, very interesting one. And she said that it's very difficult. I said it is not difficult. You go through it and you read it. You take time, but read it. And she's a very hardworking student, I must say. And she went back to hostel and read it a couple of times, and then the next day or 2 days later she came back to me and said that, ma'am, it made sense. And I was really like amazed. We all talk about this political correctness and all these days, but he had talked about it long back. So obviously we will discover such kind of nuanced writing where meaning, where it is quite impregnated with meaning, but to decode that we need to repeatedly read it. But then when we are writing, are we actually using that kind of high language to show off, or to go the Bath way, just like just like keeping the essence intact and choosing the most appropriate words and all. So I think we should actually prioritize clarity and coherence to anything else, because if the purpose of writing a paper and publishing it is knowledge dissemination, then people should actually know about it. If you cannot, if you are a science teacher and you teach relativity theory to college students, but you cannot explain that to a five-year-old child, then you don't know the relativity theory. That's that. So all theories or all practical implications that we have to tell the world through a paper, through a written paper, should be clearly and coherently communicated. So in all journals, there is a question to the researcher, which is like is the communication all right, or in different words, but does the author or authors, do the authors communicate well? Communicate well in the sense, is the language clear without linguistic errors, without coherence problems, and without spelling mistakes? All those things will come under that. So clear communication is not difficult these days because of the advancements in artificial intelligence tools and language refining tools that people avail. So that is not an excuse now at all. But then coherence, you need to use your brain. Now, objectivity is something that we need to have. This is very important, because recently when I wrote it, I had a slip actually in this objectivity part, because I was dealing with a classroom research, which is very subjective, which began very subjectively. And when I was reporting the teacher's reflections on that, now when I saw the reviewers' comments and when I went back to it, I identified that yes, it lacked objectivity. You became into that, what Virginia Woolf has told, masculine journalism and feminine fiction. She mentioned it in a very different way, but then this is how I felt it. Like, I've been quite garrulous about it, quite talkative about it, whereas I should have just summed it up. And presenting evidence from student data, I was like so elaborate. Everything that they were saying, I was quoting. Not needed. So you select your data, you report it with objectivity, and there is no personal thing coming in. There are personalized kind of narratives which can be given in a, see, have you heard of autoethnographic studies? Autoethnographic studies are really good. People don't prefer that though, because of this objectivity issue. But you can write good autoethnographies if you have this scientific temperament and objectivity quite intact. Now, as I said, this doesn't need any explanation because we have already talked about it. And then you need to have an idea of a few journals to which you would be submitting this article to, because you can't simply write saying that, oh, I'm driven by an idea, therefore I wrote it, and then now I'm checking for journals. Even that is okay. But then when you identify a journal, you have to look at the style guides, whether they follow APA style or MLA style or Harvard style or Chicago style. You need to really like go through that and then ensure that your paper fits within the style, for references, for citation, for page margins and everything else. Many of the journals, good journals, will have a template. So just go according to that, a little more scientifically, a little more objectively. Just go, then you will be able to draft that paper very well before sending it. Now, avoiding plagiarism is a very important thing. Now, there are several softwares available. So, AI plagiarism can also be, like, AI generated content can also be monitored by several of the softwares. So, you need to ensure that. And some of the journals are actually asking to submit a plagiarism report, though they will send. And that happens with UGC care listed journals, I believe, these days, because I've seen some of them asking people to submit a plagiarism report along with their submission. So it's good to have a good software. I'm sure that your institute has subscription towards subscriptions for particular plagiarism softwares. Ensure that you use it, and then there is no traces of plagiarism as such. Give credit to the people who have worked hard and researched and made sure that it is visible to the world. Right. Now, the third critical question: where should we publish? So this is something that haunts several people. Some of you might be well informed about it. So I don't know how you people are going to take the rest of the talk. Not that I have idea about how you have taken the previous part of it, but then, yeah, where should we publish? So this is something that you need to think through in terms of your, your institution as well, or the demands of publication as well, because I'm sure that, see, there was a stage when I was publishing because I wanted to get a job. No longer that way. I don't anymore publish for promotions or the higher grade or to change jobs. I publish because I enjoy that process, being rejected. It's a little cynical, but then being rejected, being accepted, that sheer joy of having another paper in print without paying any single money, waiting for a year and a half. It's an amazing kind of feeling that you get, and you can give a pat on your shoulder and say that, yes, you've done well. So these bit of small gains are the things that you should focus in actual sense. But imagine you're an early career person and your university demands that you have to publish in UGC careless journals. You concentrate on that. But if they say that either in UGC care list or Scopus Index journals, I would suggest try for the Scopus Index journals, because several of the Scopus Index journals, with very, very few, um, you know, exceptions, most of them are, if not all, are indexed in UGC care list as well. So you can see that difference. So always publishing in a Scopus Index journal is comparatively safer compared to just publishing in UGC Care. What do you want? What if you want to apply in a system like NIT or IIT or Triple IT or ICER? Then those UGC Care listed publications will not be counted because it's a science and technology thing. Their parameters are very different. So make it your selling point that you have publications in Scopus. So I am not paid by Scopus to do this talk, but then I'm telling you that this is the sheer reality in our academia, and if we have to be smart in this game. I wasn't, therefore I'm quite eligible to talk to you about this. Um, my publication history is very, very interesting in a sense. So yeah, at one look, everything looks the same. ISB, I mean, IESSN and everything else looks the same, but that's not quite the same. These type of journals are called cloned journals, and we definitely need to avoid. So these are the counterfeit mirror of an authentic journal that exploits the title and ISSN of legitimate journal. So you need to be extra careful about it. Visiting the site also is like, it's pretty mirroring kind of thing. You need to really look through it and figure out whether some things will tell you that this is not the proper journal. For example, every day I get, and I'm sure that everybody in this department or every academic will get a mail saying that publish in this particular journal. We have read your article published in this particular journal, and it is a fantastic contribution to blah, blah, blah. You are welcome to contribute your article here. If you there was a period when people used to get excited by this, not anymore, because people are well informed about such kind of predatory journals, because a good journal will never hunt for a potential contributor until and unless you're very established in that field. So think about somebody who's quite established as a researcher or theorist in literature or cultural studies or language studies. Noam Chomsky, for example, and I'm editing a journal, and I would definitely approach him for an article. That's a different thing. The editor writes. That's a different thing. But there are several such kind of emails coming to us asking for contributions. And when you check it, you will know that these are predatory kind of journals which ask for huge amount of money for publishing. So some people fall into the pit, as I said, and then they have their publications there, but then it won't be valued for anything. And later it becomes a shame for the person who, for the author or authors. So you need to have a good Scopus or SCI indexed or ABDC, that's for management field, kind of journals list. It's better if you create a list like that. I have a list of my own, because I told you that I work in language studies and cultural studies. So for both, I have created separate lists and marked it in proper ways with their links being pasted there. So whenever I have an idea, I know which journal should I go through. And sometimes, I even use different sites to find out similar kind of journals and all. So these are things that as a researcher you should do actually. Spend some time, say for example 15 to 20 minutes every day, not more than that, to figure out what kind of journals you can publish in, and make a list of that, so that you won't have to ask this question to somebody else, that can you give me a list of journals, which journals did you publish. No, you don't have to do that. Now identify good journals in the UGC care list. It's very simple, because you can go to the UGC care list and then find out the journals which are there for humanities and social sciences. So maybe for literature or language studies, it's very easy. Only thing is that you need to invest that kind of 15 to 20 minutes. People who cannot invest that 15 to 20 minutes, I don't know how they are going to write an entire paper, which is 3,000 or 4,000 or 6,000 or 7,000 or 8,000 words. So please have the, kind of commitment to invest your time to Google, to figure out, or to go on Simago and find out the journal list, or to Scopus or UGC care list, to generate a personalized or customized list for yourself. You don't have to share it with anyone. It's your personalized kind of a document that you will look at it. And then you make decisions about which journal to send it to. Right. So this is how you need to progress with that. One of my very good papers, now I can't say it's very good because I wrote it like back in 2015, when I was much younger as a researcher and as a person. So my experiences both in real life and in the theoretical domain were very limited, I must say. And the paper I wrote was very significant one. I feel I could have modified it, what do quite a lot of good things with that. But I published because the institute demanded that in 2 months' time some kind of auditing was coming. I was working in a private institution at that point of time. So we had to literally like rush for it. And then there was like paper, where is the paper? So like everybody else, I have also gone for this paid publication. I remember paying 1,200 or 1,500 rupees to a Guntur-based journal. They put a very beautiful picture of mine, a color picture on the side of the article, and I was like very happy about it. Now I just can't think about it. Two things. One is that I'm so ashamed that it is written Dr. Karthika VK or Dr. VK Karthika, and then with the picture it comes. And no good journals would go for this doctor kind of thing or picture bit of thing. Just publish this. First thing. Second thing is that it went to that particular journal. It's there in the public domain. People, when they search for me, are going to see that, and it's so shameful for me, right? So I didn't know this. I didn't know that there are such good index journals. I thought that there is no difference. There are no such. I never knew that there was corpus index journals. So ignorance is all right. But then now you have abundance of information. You have lots of programs. You might have paid for this program and came and attended this. So please ensure that you generate your own list of good corpus indexed or UGC care listed journals, depending on the demand that you have about publication, and then work on writing the articles and sending it to them. Go through the review process. It's absolutely fine. Okay. So there are certain things then you need to take care. As I said, avoid predatory journals, and you need to be identifying them and be alerted about it. When you see high impact factor for a journal, 12, 20 and all, it's just it's not a good journal. People just talk about it, that's that. Or people just have some kind of miscalculations to mislead you. As simple as that. Impact factor cannot be very high. Choose journals based on the editorial board. This is something that I do these days because I go through the editorial board and I ensure that they have good publication history, and they are quite switched on kind of people, and they are very established in the field. I Google them. So that is why I said when you are identifying a journal, spend some time on that. It's worth. Then check the publication timeline and peer review process. This is very interesting. I once sent a paper to a particular journal, and for a year I didn't receive anything at all. And now they rejected the paper. Just imagine that 1 year of waiting. no peer review, nothing at all, and then they rejected the thing. So you need to actually look at the peer review process. When is the first decision to be made? Like in 3 months, first decision, then another 3 months, first revision. So all the good journals will have clear kind of timelines, and also an acceptance rate as well. Some journals will accept only 2% or 10% of the entire submissions they receive. And some journals are quarterly, some journals are monthly, some journals are bi-monthly. So you need to actually look at the journal and the kind of publication possibilities. Obviously, if a journal has 4 issues a year, then you have more chances of getting published in a year's time. But if a journal has only 2 issues a year, then the publication possibility comes down, right? You work on your 10th standard probability maths, then you will understand. Read a few issues of the journal and decide if it suits your research. Recently, I got a rejection letter which was very passionate, okay, passionate in the sense which was like I tried to get that particular letter, but then I couldn't locate it. Several mails. So, and Pungudi was on call, so I just thought I'll join the program. So this particular email says that though you have submitted to XYZ journal, we cannot find any articles published in our XYZ journal quoted in your research. So I was like, oh, really? You felt bad, kind of a thing. But then I thought about it. If you're sending something to a particular journal, we should actually read that journal because we think that it aligns with the scope of our work, which means that journal will have several other articles which are addressing the same scope. So why not? Right. So this is something that we need to think about. So reading a few issues of the journal will help you to identify similar articles and also will help you to identify the kind of scope and also the style and format. This will help you to polish your article further. And then avoid institutional or society publications with in-house editorial board. And if more than 60% of the articles published either by, so I should give a statutory warning. If you think this resembles something or someone, I am not responsible that this is purely coincidental. Okay, just like the warning in the beginning of the movies. So if you take a journal and you see the 6 editorial members are there and the first 6 articles are written by these editorial members, then there is something spooky about it, as my child says, something spooky. Yeah, so don't go for that. It is not ethical to patronize a journal. There are some people who continuously publish in one particular journal because they might be part of the editorial board or the advisory board. They keep on publishing in the same journal. That is called patronization. That is not right. Okay, so you need to have a variety of journals and getting different venues for publication, and it's very unethical if you repeatedly publish in the same journal as if like I can send a paper at any point of time and they will publish it kind of an attitude is not right. But it is happening. What can we do? But at least in your case, you just look for journals very closely and ensure that the editorial members' names are not repeated. I know certain Q1 journals where editorial members publish continuously. Sometimes in certain issues, more than 2 articles of the same person would be there. Still, if you report it, the journal will be taken out of the Scopus Index list or UGC care list. So there is always a grievance mechanism also associated with that. If you think that this journal is predatory or there are some suspicious kind of occurrences in the journal, you can actually report it with evidence, screenshots and other things. Then they will be taking care of it. The Scopus or the indexing body will be taking care of it. So these are some things that you need to think about when you are thinking about the venue. So I think I'll soon finish it. Authoring and co-authoring. There are 2 types of authorship: gift authorship and ghost authorship. Someone has very consistently and substantially contributed to your research, to your writing, but you do not acknowledge the person in the author's list. Then that's a ghost authorship. The person is not present, but his or her presence is very much felt in the article. So then that is called ghost authorship. But lastly, what happens is the gift authorship. Okay, or guest authorship, when somebody who does not actually qualify to be an author of that particular paper will be given the privilege of an author just as a gift. This happens recently. There was an article which talks about how the guides are treating their researchers. Very interesting one. For conducting one of the DC meetings, they will be giving a gold coin, or just very unethical kind of practices in the research domain was listed in one of the newspapers the other day. I forgot which newspaper it was. I got a screenshot of it, so I didn't check which one. I was very busy. So if you read that article, you will see all these things. The research guide does not get involved in the research process at all, and the student writes the paper, and then the first author becomes the guide. So this is very unethical kind of practice, which is a clear case of gift authorship. Of course, when the researcher does the work and the guide guides the person, then there should be, to avoid ghost authorship, there should be enough credits given to the person. So it's always, when you are co-authoring, it's always better to have a clear kind of clear kind of partition of work, or kind of structuring of work. This is what you're going to do. So if you're collecting the data and interpreting it, I'm going to write it. Or you collect the data, you write the paper, I will edit it. So some kind of clear guidelines about co-authoring should be reached between, or should be made between the authors, the 2 or 3 authors who are there. Who should be the first author? Who should be the second author? Who should be the third author? Who will be the corresponding author? All this has some kind of a point. It's all quantitative. So if you are a first author, you get a different point in the point calculator, which is taken for your promotion, or maybe your recruitment, or whatsoever, or increment rather. And which quartile you publish also has some kind of value these days. Recently, I went for an FDP, and people were saying that Q3 and Q4 journals are, quartile 3 and quartile 4 journals are no longer accepted. They accept only Q1 and Q2 journals, which makes the race even crazier. Okay, so we need to be aware of what are these things, and work smart. Now, dealing with rejection, this is a rejection letter that we got a year ago. No, not a year, 6 months ago. This article is clearly written, extensively researched, and discusses an interesting pedagogical experiment. The points about learner agency and affect were of particular interest. However, since one of the stated purposes of the article is to show the potential of using graphic narratives as pedagogical tools, I would suggest that this article is better published in a journal related to education or pedagogy, where it would be more likely to reach an audience that is not yet used to teaching with comics or teaching comics. Publishing this article in the particular journal is like preaching to the converted, and is less likely to reach an audience that may benefit from the points in this article. You look at the tone of the article. And this is not the second reviewer, this is the third reviewer. Third reviewer, because they sent it for 3 reviews. And what is so wrong with it? There is nothing wrong with it. Now you know the reality. This article was submitted to the journal 2 years ago. And after 8 to 9 months, it came for first review. And the first review was thoroughly done and sent. And then it came for a second review from the initial submission 1.5 years or so later. And then at the end of 2 years, they gave this rejection letter. Dealing with that is not easy. I don't want to show you the second reviewer's comment. It looks very personal and all. I have no idea why. I have never received any rejection letters like that. So it's quite like attacking mode kind of a one, which is not presentable here, because it will clearly tell you which journal is that, which I don't want to do. So if you look at it, you will understand that 2 things. One is the kind of publishing this article in this particular journal is like preaching to the converted, and is less likely to reach an audience that may benefit from the points in this article. So they could have rejected it long back, but they gave it for 2 reviews. We finished all the reviews, and all the kind of suggestions were carried out. The paper was well structured by then. And then the third round, the editor took this decision to reject it based on this particular set of reviews that we received. So it also shows that sometimes you have to have the patience of 1 year of waiting, 2 years of waiting. Now I'm waiting for the article to be published in a very prestigious journal, which I submitted back in 2022, January. So from 2022 January to 24 January, it is going to be like, you can imagine how many years. But we need to have the patience. We need to go through all the comments. As I said, 12 pages of review is too much for us to handle along with the academic workload that we have got. But once you get published, that kind of a sheer pleasure, as I said, which you get, will make you run for more. So it's just like Oliver Twist asking for more food, that we will be craving for more papers. So if you compete with your own self, and your own past versions, this is something that I always tell people. You will be able to deal with rejections. You will be able to process rejection and then go ahead. So after we received this thing, we actually took it very seriously. We, in the sense, my student and me. So we submitted it to a journal which was relating education, pedagogy, and technology, and it got published in another 3 to 4 months time, because the article didn't have to go through a lot of changes at all, because already it was thrice or 3 times reviewed and made corrections and all. So it got published in another 3-4 months time. So that can happen. So stay positive and go through all these kind of rejections, deal with it. Take any kind of positive aspect from the kind of rejection letter that you have got, and make sure that you work on it and make the article better. So these are the sites that you people should visit. Quite easy to find them. And then say that you have a list which is related to your topic, which is related to your area of research and all, rather than asking somebody which are the journals that you publish and all. Another thing is that this is just like, as I said, the we stand on the shoulders of the giants. You can follow that. If you're interested in one particular area, and you know somebody who extensively writes in that area, follow that person. Follow in the sense, not stalking that person, but check the person's profile, see where he or she has published, and then check whether those journals are suitable. That's also one trick that you can use to get more information about some very good journals, because the best in the field will publish only in the best journals. Okay, this is something that you can also think about. And then there are sources to identify journals, journal finder. If you put the abstract in there, they will give you some suggestions about the possible journals which accept similar kind of articles and all. It may not work all the time, because sometimes, I get very weird kind of results. Just for fun, I check. It's not that I go according to this. I take the journal, I look at the advisory board, I look at the editorial board. Sometimes the reviewers' names are also given. I check that, and then I go for it. And one more thing is there, which is that several of the journals whose reviewers or whose editorial board are known to us may not actually take our work. If there are identifying kind of features there, they may not take the work as well. So there is a lot of other kind of crisis going on within this journal industry, I would say. So to surpass all that, to jump over all such hurdles and publish, you need the kind of verve and enthusiasm and that never-ending passion to publish, which cannot be stemmed from any increment or any kind of promotion aspect of it. You need to really work hard. I mean, people say that smart work gets people in certain places, but I don't really believe in it. I can tell you things that I believe in. Therefore, I'm telling you that hard work is, something that it may be initially you won't get anything, but eventually, if you persist, and if you are so much like into it, you will definitely get the results. So these are some of the databases or indexes for arts and humanities and social sciences journals. But then we usually go for Scopus, WOS, and ABDC ones. And then, locally, you can think about UGC care listed journals as well. So SCI is another thing, but then SCI has a different. Yeah, you can read. I'll share the links later. You can get the ideas about ethics, more of it on from these two links. actually. Now let us, I think one question we had not answered. So how to identify if a journal is predatory or not? I'm sure you got the answer. How important is it to publish in a UGC careless corpus journals? If I have to rewind it, it's about where you want to publish, because of what need. And if your need is for promotions or increments, better salary, whatsoever, if it is related to your institution and institution's governance policies or NAC accreditation or whatsoever, you will have to devise a different strategy for it. And if you are truly passionate about research and you have that exciting or exotic kind of pleasure when you see your article in print, then there is a different methodology. And always better if you go for Scopus Index journals, which are also featuring in UGC Care List ones, because then you can sell your skills in both spectrum, both science and technology and liberal arts kind of spectrum. Otherwise, it might be slightly challenging. Are there journals where you can publish without paying? Now, you know that good journals will not take any payments at all. For making them open access, yes, they may charge, and then that can be met through your institution support or external funding and all. I have not tried for any open access kind of things, so I don't know about it. Why people make their articles visible and open access is to get the citations, to make it more accessible to the public, so that there will be more citations as well. I'm not saying that people do that only for citation purpose. I'm very careful about it. I'm saying that open access journals will enable more people to read that, but then as money is involved, then there could be eventually some kind of compromises happening in that as well. Yeah, so take it with a pinch of salt. How to write article to publish in best journal without rejection. Without rejection is just a myth. It doesn't happen. You should get rejected. It's just like, how the baby steps. The babies will fall down and then they will learn. If they fall down and they think that they cannot ever walk, get up and walk, then what would happen? So just like that, there is nothing like without rejection. And be thankful to every single rejection, including the cruelest of the rejections that I have told you. We should be thankful for that, because somebody is taking some time to read the article and to do a kind of judgment on it, to give us comments on it, give rationale for their rejection. So value that and introspect whether you need to actually go for some kind of a revision of your paper, or are they just doing blah blah. So if they're doing blah blah, you don't have to worry about it. You can just approach another suitable journal and then send it there and get it published. But never imagine that rejection is a full stop. It's actually the beginning of it, and you should get rejected. Only then you will, you will find your pace and all. So only after several rounds of rejection that one of the articles gets selected. And don't you want to experience the sheer pleasure of being rejected, and then, I mean, sheer pain of being rejected, and then the pleasure of being accepted? It's incredible. How to be able to, or how do I increase my citation score and H index? Read about citation score and H index, do some homework, and think about how to increase it. It depends on the kind of area of research. And as I said, more open access journals will allow you to be cited more, and the more the citation of the articles, your H index will come up. So there is no shortcut. Okay, so in reality shows and all, people just bribe people to send SMS and all. That is not possible here, I believe. At least that much unethical practices have not creeped into the field. So we have some hope still. Yeah. How to publish in Scopus for PhD? I think I answered this from the beginning itself, that we are not publishing for PhD. We're not publishing for increment. We are publishing because we have some kind of good ideas to share to the world. And we like doing that. Then there is a lot of curiosity and enthusiasm within you, which would make you identify the most suitable Scopus Index journal or SCI journal or ABDC journal. So that question is not a very serious one, I would say. So I have depended on Professor Pramod K. Nayar's and Professor V.N. Rajashekharan Pillai's talk on this, and Shubhada Nagarkar's article, Predatory Journals, publish and perish for this. And then a lot of my experiences, expeditions, which are, continuing, and my hard work as references for this talk. I'm open to discussions, suggestions, and questions if I can help. So I'll stop sharing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. The mic is enabled for all the participants. Ma'am will take few questions, so we have only 10 more minutes. And
Right.
any
Comments,
questions from the
questions? Yeah.
participants?
Ma'am, I
Dr.
have only
Shanta.
appreciation because I used to feel ashamed when my papers used to get rejected. But the way you have glorified that it's okay to get rejected, that has really boosted up my morale, ma'am. Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. I understand that. You know, we have to take those baby steps, and the times that I got rejected continuously, it's just like if I could show that rejection history, you wouldn't. And then if you should, check my publication history, then you will see that when did she manage to get all these rejections? It's incredible. Yeah, good one. Dr. Shantanu, would you like to unmute and ask? Or yeah, I think you are unmuted, but I cannot hear you.
You can post the questions in chat box also if you're not, if your mic isn't
Yeah.
working or if you have any other issues.
Yeah, Dr. Priya. Thank you so much, Dr. Priya. Thank you. I hope you have some takeaway from here. I think they're all clear about it.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah,
Okay.
what not to do, really, Ramya, regarding publication. Yes, I think I have told you to. Thank you, Srimati Madam. Some links, right? I told you that I'll give the links. I'll just post it in the chat box. How do I get my paper published without APC? Really? 1 second, I'll just paste it in the chat box. Then how do I get my paper published without APC in Scopus? Sir, have you not been listening to me? I told you very clearly that you have to generate a list of journals and then check whether there is article processing charges. And many of the good journals will not have any article processing charges, only they'll have charges for open access kind of option. So you don't have to opt for open access. I never opted for one. So, it's okay. But other than that, how do you get your paper published is just about making a list of possible journals which are matching your field of research, and then writing, getting rejected, writing again, and then getting successful. That's that. I think I've mentioned it in my presentation. Um, Thank you. Recently, one of my scholars was prey to predatory journal. My God, Journal of Humanities and Social Sciences. They have a Scopus Index version also, but this one was, oh my God, that is terrible. The Journal of Humanities and Social Sciences is an okay one. It's a good journal. I didn't know that it has a cloned version. My goodness, that's terrible. People are actually giving a lot of money for publication these days as well. The other day in the sense like a month ago, I heard from someone that there was 1.5 lakh rupees charged for a paper to be published. And that's like insane. I don't know why do people have to spend a lot of money that way. Yeah, thank you, Rekha. Yeah,
I'm sure, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
yes, you are audible. Dr. Priya.
Okay. Yes, yes. I was the one who was typing in the chat box.
Yes, I saw that.
Ma'am, this journal, no, another scholar of mine has published in the proper one, but this
Right.
one we got a certificate and it says UGC Care approved Group 1. So it is Scopus was indexed, but then the spelling of multidisciplinary referred journal, the spelling of referred is wrong. That is when I
Right.
smelled uh, something is wrong.
You can't do anything about it. You can't, maybe you can try to actually get the paper cancelled or something, but I'm not sure how it works actually. It's very difficult. Once it goes in, then terrible.
Yeah.
It's just like
Yes.
it's a very painful kind of experience for the student as well, because already one person has published in that with lots of hopes. The person might have, see, it's all about affect as well, all about emotions as well. With a lot of hope and hard work, we write the paper, and then getting published in a clone journal is truly painful. But what to do? There's no remedy for that other than checking continuously, submitting through their system, cross-verifying several times and all. Other than that, there is no. And then the email communications between the journal and us will also give us some kind of hint, just like how you read the, spelling error and then understood that it's a clone journal. Sometimes that also helps us. Very sad. Yes, Dr. Priya. Thank you. Dr. Rekha, would you like to?
And ma'am, just as you
Yeah.
said, if we go for not paid journals, that's the safest.
Yes, precisely. Because they will only ask for, see, for example, several Taylor and Francis journals, they'll ask for open access fee. And if you want to pay that, you can pay that with institutional support or your own money. I don't do that. I'm not sure about it. But then if you do that, it will become open access. It will be available for everyone. Otherwise, the readers will have to pay for it. But then that's always better. Can you please share the slide on ethics? Yeah, I'll just copy paste. Meanwhile, Dr. Rekha, if you have anything to say.
Nothing much, ma'am. All appreciation for your talk.
Thank you.
And one similar experience, just thought of sharing for the benefit of everybody.
Right.
In the clone journal, similar we came across was the whole journal page, front page looked exactly the same. Only difference, much later we noticed, was that there is in the menu bar, there is one of the menu missing. Rest all are exactly the same. Only index menu is missing.
My God.
All others are exactly the same. The color, the font, including the logo are the same. I don't know how they manage and how they are not sued.
Yeah, I understand. I think along with you, I'm thinking, and I think one of the ways in which we can avoid is to, if you see Journal of Humanities and Social Sciences, let's say, and then you go to the Scopus site, and then from Scopus you go to the journal site, that might be like
Yes.
safer. I think
Exactly.
that's the
Correct.
only, because otherwise, it's just like
Correct.
buying Fanta from the Fanta company rather than from a railway station store. Just like
Yes, ma'am. This is what happened when we went through the Scopus only. We noticed in that actual
There's a
journals
change.
page, it is all written. There is something going like this on our journal, in our journal name. We don't
All
accept
right.
anything else other than folklore related. All
Oh.
these, disclaimer was there in the original. That is when we noticed that.
Yeah, such kind of heads up if they get, sometimes, even they won't be able to get that. So that's also there. They won't,
Yes.
only when they are alerted about the possibility of clone journal being quite, popular,
Correct.
then only they'll be able to give a heads up like that. Otherwise, that also is not there. And the people, just like, it's a ongoing kind of process. And paper mills are there. You pay and you tell them this is the area, and they give you a paper and it gets published and all. So many such things are happening, and corruption is just here as well. Reality, we have to just drive safely. That's that.
True, true. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. So,
Thank you. Thank you
yes.
for answering to the questions, ma'am. And first, thank for sharing, voicing our stories, the problems we face. And not only you dealt with the problems, but you gave solutions also. It was visible that your passion for research and commitment to foster academic excellence through the session. and the practical strategies you shared on crafting impactful research papers, identifying suitable journals, avoiding predatory journals, and ensuring ethical quality, which is very important nowadays. And all these were especially valuable, I think, to all the participants and for us as academic fraternity as well on the whole. And on behalf of the participants, on behalf of the department, once again, we extend our heartfelt thanks to you, ma'am, for this
Thank you.
enriching us with your insights, inspiring us to aim higher in academic journey. And you have said that don't be afraid of rejection. Yes, I
Of
think that is
course.
inspiring for us all. Uh, thank you all. I thank all the participants for your active participation. And we have posted the feedback link. Kindly give your feedback. Again, the feedback is not, it's just to enhance and to correct us. And all your feedbacks will be helpful for this. Thank you, ma'am. And I thank all the participants for this joining the session. And we'll meet tomorrow for the third session at 10 a.m.
Thank you so much, and I
Thank
wish
you,
all the
ma'am.
best to you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, and wishing all the best to this FDP. May this be a very
Thank you so
fruitful
much,
one.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Poonam.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye, ma'am.
Yeah.
Bye.